day, everyone. This is CARICOM One-on-One. I am Tusankin English Francis for the CARICOM Secretariat's Communications Unit. With me is Ambassador Colin Granderson, Assistant Secretary General for the Directorate of Foreign and Community Relations. He's our guest today to talk about CARICOM's response to the crisis in the Bolivarian Republic of Venezuela. Welcome, Ambassador Granderson.
Good day, viewers. As you're aware, on the 10th of January, President Maduro of the Bolivarian Republic of Venezuela started his new term of office. That has triggered a number of reactions. The very first one basically was a determination made by the Organization of American States that the new term of office was not legitimate. And that in turn has triggered a number of reactions, among which a determination by a number of states, both of the Organization of American States, but also the European Union, that basically President Maduro is no longer a legitimate president of Venezuela. CARICOM has taken a neutral position, because first of all, it is concerned by the plight of the people of Venezuela. They believe that any escalation, any destabilization of a situation is going to worsen an already difficult situation of the people of Venezuela. As a result, CARICOM member states decided to have a meeting at the level of heads of government, and that meeting took place on the 24th of January. Coming out of it, our heads mandated a small group of heads of government, led by the chairman of conference, the Prime Minister of St. Kitts Nevis, Prime Minister Harris, to go to the United Nations and to have a meeting with the United Nations Secretary General in order to obtain the support of the United Nations and the Secretary General, basically for an initiative involving mediation and good offices. That meeting took place on the 20th of January, and coming out of that meeting, the Secretary General made it very clear that yes, he was willing to offer good offices, but that he could only do so if both sides of the equation were willing and ready to come to the negotiating table. And that is not the case at present. During that particular visit to the United Nations, the delegation, which was composed, as I said, was led by Prime Minister of St. Kitts Nevis. It also comprised the Prime Minister of Trinidad and Tobago, Prime Minister of Barbados, and the Caribbean Community Secretary General. The delegation also had a number of meetings, therefore, both at the United Nations and in New York. They met, for example, with the President of the United Nations General Assembly. They met also with the permanent representatives of a number of states, for example, Australia, Canada, Uruguay, Venezuela. They met also with representatives of the European Union and of the African Union. During these meetings, the delegation made it very clear that they were concerned about the impact of any destabilization or any escalation of the situation, not only on the people of Venezuela, but also on the immediate region, which comprises, obviously, the Caribbean community. There could be an increase, for example, in the outflow of refugees to neighboring states, as has already been the case. They also received a telephone call from the Foreign Minister of Mexico, who had earlier indicated that Mexico and Uruguay were in the process of putting together an initiative with regard to mediation on the crisis in Venezuela, and requested the support of the Caribbean community. The heads of conference had a second meeting by video conference on the 1st of February, at which a decision was taken that another delegation should go to Uruguay, where the meeting would be taking place. They therefore met in Uruguay on the 6th of February with foreign ministers of Uruguay and of Mexico, out of which came a decision to put in place what is called the Montevideo mechanism, which basically is an attempt, a four-phase attempt at mediation. These, therefore, some of the activities that have been taken by the Caribbean community in its own effort to offer its good offices and working with like-minded organizations such as the United Nations and with like-minded countries such as Uruguay and Mexico to see to what extent it's possible to bring the contending parties in Venezuela together in order to find a peaceful internal resolution to the ongoing crisis. And that's where we are at the moment.
Ambassador, with the Montevideo mechanism in place, I'm wondering if you can tell us what are the next steps as CARICOM negotiates its response and continues its advocacy for peace and tranquility in this turmoil.
As I said, the Montevideo mechanism, it's a four-phase approach to mediation. And the very first phase obviously has to do with communication, meaning therefore that contact is going to be made with representatives of both the sides, the government side and with the opposition side. In order to do this, the Caribbean community, as well as Uruguay and Mexico, have designated representatives, four representatives altogether, and they are going to be having their first meeting together in the course of this week in order to determine how best to go forward. So that's where we are at the moment.
Okay. So you have outlined what CARICOM has done in response to the crisis. I just want to backtrack a little and to ask you, why was our involvement so important in the first place? Our viewers would be aware that CARICOM position has differed from the international community, which has mainly recognized the opposition leader as Venezuela's interim president. So could you tell us the importance of CARICOM being at the forefront of this very international and very significant political development in this hemisphere?
Okay, I think first of all, I would need to point out that yes, Mr. Guaido, who is the president of the National Assembly, has been recognized as interim president by a small number of member states, not by the international community as a whole. As a matter of fact, coming out of the meeting with the United Nations Secretary General, it was made clear that, how should I put it, that for the international community as a collective to take such a decision, it would have to be taken by the United Nations General Assembly. That has not been done. Therefore, yes, a small number of countries have recognized him as interim president. But as I said earlier, the issue for the Caribbean community is the fact that we are neighbors of Venezuela. We are concerned by the ongoing crisis in Venezuela. It's not only a political crisis, but it's also a social crisis. There's been a huge outflow of Venezuelans to neighboring countries. The United Nations High Commission for Refugees has put the number at over 3 million. A number of CARICOM member states have been affected by this inflow of refugees. Guyana, according again to the United Nations High Commission for Refugees, has something like 20,000 Venezuelans. Trinidad and Tobago, which is also close, has some 40,000 Venezuelan migrants. But as I said, that if there's any deterioration of the situation, it's going to affect the people of Venezuela, and there's a very deep concern, obviously, for their plight. There's also concern about the fact that great powers are becoming involved. We know, for example, that the United States has taken a certain position. Russia has also taken a position, so that I think that there would be concern that a great power rivalry would be taking place within the Caribbean basin.
Okay.
And it's very important for all of us in the Caribbean region that the Caribbean region remain a zone of peace.
We have been discussing CARICOM's response to the political turmoil in the Bolivarian Republic of Venezuela. I just want to introduce for a little bit that CARICOM heads of government have also been paying attention to the increasing political turmoil in Haiti. In fact, yesterday, CARICOM chairman, the Honorable Timothy Harris, issued a statement outlining CARICOM's deep concern for the crisis there. I wonder, Ambassador, if you can reiterate what CARICOM's position is on what is happening in Haiti.
Yes, over the past a few days, there have been a number of violent demonstrations in Haiti. There's been looting, and there have also been 4 persons who have lost their lives in the course of these demonstrations. The Caribbean community has put out a statement, basically calling on the Haitians to stop the violence of these demonstrations, and calling for a return to normalcy. Obviously, as I said, a lot of concern, because these demonstrations have been going on for the past 5 or 6 days, and yes, there are economic problems, there are social problems, but the best way to address these problems would be through dialogue, and therefore the concern is that there needs to be a return to peace, to tranquility, so that a dialogue between the contending parties can also take place.
Ambassador Granderson, thank you so much for appearing on CARICOM One-on-One. Visit our social media site for these and other stories as we keep you informed of regional developments.